She spent just $5 on a fake date this Christmas but discovered his hidden millions. Jessica's fingers dug into her coat pockets as she felt the crinkle of the crumpled $5 bill. It felt almost like magic, yet so minuscule against everything she carried on her shoulders. The weight of her family's expectations hung around her neck like a heavy chain, pulling her down into a seasonal gloom that Christmas had no hope of lifting. In the sleepy Midwestern town of Maplewood, there wasn't much cheer to be found in the bitter winter air. She trudged up to the cafe, a small haven lit with twinkling lights and wrapped in the kind of festive garlands that turned even the grumpiest of souls soft. "Come on, Jess. It'll be fun." Lily, her best friend, had insisted, dragging her into this ridiculous fake date scheme to cope with her breakup. Clutching her precious $5, she pushed the door open, the chime of service bells ringing like a mix of hope and doubt in her ears. She scanned the cozy cafe filled with laughter. Across from her sat Ethan, who wore an ordinary brown jacket and a humble smile, as if he were a regular guy in a Christmas movie. But in that short moment, sharing quiet laughter over steaming cups of coffee, something shifted. Their conversation flowed, reminiscing about the dreams they had, adventures they wished for that felt just out of reach. It was liberating in a way that warmed Jessica's heart, reminding her of the girl she once was before weighty adult responsibilities set in. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the coffee warmed her hands, an urgency brewed within her. Struggling to keep pace with the light-hearted banter, she felt a twinge of insecurity bubbling beneath the laughter. Here she was, a waitress barely scraping by with back-to-back shifts just to pay rent, sharing a table with someone who felt so effortlessly at ease. Yet, Ethan was just a friendly face, no one important, at least that's what she told herself. But the way he listened, as if he valued every word she spoke, made her heartbeat quicken with hope. Behind that gentleness, though, lay a secret she had yet to uncover. He wasn't just the ordinary guy next door, he was an entrepreneur hiding a fortune beneath his humble demeanor, untouched by the town's prejudice against success. As Christmas approached, the town faced its own crisis, with the local factory on the brink of closing. Fear and uncertainty crept in, tightening like a noose around Jessica's hopes, leaving her wondering if she could ever truly escape this cycle of desperation. Would she forever feel inadequate against a backdrop of unfulfilled dreams? With the clock ticking toward a holiday that once filled her with joy, Jessica found herself at a crossroads. Would she break free from her past's chains and dare to explore what it meant to truly connect, or would she retreat back into her carefully constructed walls just as the first snowflakes of change began to fall? The air was electric with possibility, and her heart pounded with questions. Could she embrace everything life had yet to offer, or continue to cling to the familiar shadows? The choice seemed monumental, but sometimes the greatest leaps of faith come from the quietest voices within. The cafe's warmth enveloped Jessica, contrasting her cold thoughts as she took a sip of her coffee, trying to focus on the conversation. Ethan leaned in, his eyes sparkling with genuine interest. "So, what dreams haven't you chased yet?" he asked, stirring the froth on top of his cappuccino. Dreams. The word echoed in her mind, reverberating against the harsh realities she had faced. "Honestly, I've put them on hold, I guess," she admitted, fiddling with her napkin. "It's hard to dream when you're just trying to get by." Ethan's expression shifted as if he understood the weight she carried. "You have to find a way to keep dreaming, Jess. Life gets richer when you do." His words struck a chord deep within her, lighting a spark of hope. She would never say it out loud, but the conversation felt different, he felt different. Every laugh, every shared story nudged her to break free from the molds she had been thrust into. Suddenly, the door swung open with a winter gust, drawing her attention. The sound of laughter faded, replaced by a somber undercurrent. The café's atmosphere shifted as a group of local factory workers entered, their faces lined with worry. The factory had been the backbone of Maplewood for decades, and the town depended on it for survival. As grim news huddled around them, Jessica felt the weight of anxiety echo in her chest. "Here's to hoping for a Christmas miracle," one of the men said, breaking the heavy silence. It was a noble sentiment, but Jessica wondered how could miracles blossom from such hardship. Ethan watched them as they settled at the far table, a shadow creeping into his demeanor. "This town needs a change. It feels stuck," he said, more to himself than to her. Jessica could sense an urge to do anything to help, but what could she possibly contribute beyond her measly tips? Amidst the swirling thoughts, Ethan's voice rippled through, grounding her. "Maybe we can find a way to bring some joy back. You know, give people hope again." "You think we can?" she asked, incredulous. "Why not?" he smiled, but this time there was something more resolute behind it. Instead of dismissing her own skepticism, Jessica felt something bubble up inside her, a stubborn whisper of defiance against fate. "Okay," she said softly, "let's give it a shot." The world beyond the cafe felt charged with potential. Would they really be able to pull together a plan? In that moment, it wasn't just about her dreams anymore, but about igniting a flame in others. Gathering courage, she envisioned Christmas carols lighting up dark streets, baked goods filling hungry voices, and laughter breaking through the clouds. When the clock struck 6, the glow from the cafe dimmed as the shadows grew longer outside. Ethan's eyes sparkled with excitement as he leaned across the table. "So, let's brainstorm ideas. There's got to be something we can do to lift spirits before the factory's fate is sealed." Jessica's heart raced. This wasn't just a fake date anymore, it was something real, something that could mean change. Just as she began to share a wild idea, the cafe door swung open again, this time letting in a chill that swept through the room. In stepped someone she didn't expect to see. "Jessica?" The voice broke through her focused thoughts, and she looked up. There, framed against the snowy backdrop, stood her older brother, a person she hadn't spoken to in ages. "Eddie?" The warmth of the cafe felt like it evaporated instantly. The moment was unsettling as familiar feelings of past frustrations surged up. What did he want? Could he upend everything she had just begun to feel hopeful about? Jessica's heart sank at the crossroads emerging before her again. The warmth of dreams seemed so close, and yet her brother's unexpected arrival had thrown open a door she wasn't ready to deal with. Would she confront her past with him, or could they work together to brighten their town's future? For the first time in a long time, she wasn't quite sure what step to take next. Eddie stepped closer, shaking off the snow from his coat, his familiar face a mix of apprehension and hope. Jessica's heart raced. The years of silence stretched between them like a chasm, filled with memories she had struggled to forget. "What are you doing here?" she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. The warmth of the cafe suddenly felt stifling, the air thick with unspoken words. "I came to see you," he said, his eyes darting around as if searching for the right words. "I heard about the factory. I thought maybe you could use some help." "Help?" The word hung in the air, mocking both of them. Jessica couldn't shake the resentment that bubbled beneath her skin. "You have a funny way of showing it, disappearing for years and then expecting to just waltz back into my life," she shot back, surprising even herself with the sharpness of her tone. Ethan shifted in his seat, sensing the tension. He glanced from Jessica to Eddie like a chess player contemplating the next move. It felt like a game now, and Jessica was determined not to be the pawn. "I know I messed up, Jess. But the town needs support, and I want to be part of that. I miss us. I miss family," Eddie pleaded, his voice low but urgent. "Family?" she echoed, laughter caught in her throat. You don't get to call yourself that after leaving without a word when we needed you the most. She took a deep breath, trying to manage the spiraling emotions within her. Maybe it wasn't about being angry, maybe it was just about being scared. But she wasn't ready to show that side yet. Ethan watched the exchange quietly, the warmth of his smile replaced with concern. With a steadying breath, he stood up. Maybe we all need a moment. The softness in his voice wrapped around Jessica like a comforting blanket. I'll grab another coffee. You two can talk. As he walked to the counter, Jessica's eyes were fixed on her brother. The anger that had fueled her words suddenly felt weak. She was no longer sure what she wanted from him. Were they meant to reconcile, or was it all just an impossible dream? Eddie's voice softened, and she could see the hurt etched in his features. I'm sorry. I was young and stupid. I thought I was doing what was best for me. For us. I never meant to hurt you. The sincerity in his voice tore at her. She wanted to stay angry, to protect the walls she had built, but as she stared into his eyes, she began to see the boy who had once been her best friend, her brother. What's done is done, Eddie, Jessica finally said, her voice faltering. But if there's ever a chance for us to fix things, it's now with the factory. A glimmer of hope sparked between them. Eddie nodded, the weight of the past still lingering but perhaps beginning to lift. Maybe we can tackle this together, he suggested, his face lighting up. I've heard the owners have been looking for community support. I have some contacts. Jessica's heart fluttered at the thought, a mixture of excitement and fear swirling in her stomach. Maybe there was a chance for more than just personal reconciliation. Suddenly, Ethan returned, balancing 3 cups of steaming coffee. He glanced from Jessica to Eddie and back again, sensing the shifting dynamics. Is everything okay? More than okay, Jessica replied, surprising herself with the warmth in her tone. Eddie and I might be on the same team after all. That's great to hear. Ethan beamed, placing a cup before her. So, what's the plan? As they began brainstorming together, she could feel the cold walls she had built around her dreams slowly melting away. Maybe she had room for both of them in her life, her brother, and the hope of something more with Ethan. But just as the trio began to envision their future, the door swung open yet again, and a sharp cry cut through the air. I can't believe you all would do this. The voice belonged to someone Jessica had never expected to see. The moment of clarity slipped, and a chill ran through her again, causing her heart to drop. What now? Was her fragile new bond with Eddie about to be shattered again? All eyes turned to the door. Uncertainty looming as the next chapter in her journey was about to unfold. Jessica froze, her heart hammering in her chest as she processed the flash of familiar blonde hair standing in the doorway. It was Claire, Eddie's childhood friend and a once close part of their lives. Dressed in a red winter coat that glimmered even under the cafe's dim lights, her eyes were narrowed like daggers directed right at them. What are you doing back in town? Claire spat, her voice sharp and tinged with betrayal. This is low, even for you, Eddie. Did you think you could come back and play the hero? Eddie's face paled slightly. He opened his mouth to respond, but Jessica interrupted. Claire, this is about the factory. Eddie wants to help. Help? Claire scoffed, crossing her arms over her chest. What do you know about helping? You abandoned us. You don't get to just walk back in enough. Jessica's voice pierced through the air, surprising even herself. The tension hung heavy, and she noticed Ethan instinctively taking a step back, sensing the fireworks ready to explode. Jessica rubbed the bridge of her nose, trying to tame the turmoil in her mind. Maybe he did leave, she said slowly, desperately trying to choose her words wisely. But this town is in trouble, and I want to try. We're all we've got right now. Can't you see that? Claire seemed to falter for a brief moment, her expression shifting from anger to confusion. You're siding with him? She shot back, flinging her words like stones. "I thought you were better than that, Jess." "I'm not siding with anyone," Jessica retorted. "I'm just trying to be practical. It's time to move forward, not stay trapped in the past. We can't afford to hold grudges when the factory's on the line." Ethan cleared his throat, trying to mediate, but it was clear things had escalated past simple resolution. "Claire, maybe give Eddie a chance to explain. He's here to support the town, just like you are." But Claire scoffed again, the fire in her eyes returning. "We don't need his help. We've survived without him." Her tone turned icy. "And don't think your little reunion will mean anything for the rest of us. We don't get to forget how easily you turned your backs." Eddie's shoulders slumped and Jessica could feel his pain, raw and exposed. She glanced at him, then back to Claire, unsure of how to bridge the widening gap. "Claire," she said softly, "what would you rather have? Eddie's help or to push him away and watch everything we care about fall apart?" The silence that followed was thick. Claire's hardened expression wavered, and for the first time, doubt flickered in her eyes. Eddie shifted in his seat, a spark of unfurling hope lighting up the air. "You remember the summer we all worked together at the factory," he said. His voice was softer now, almost reminiscent. "We can find a way to fix this for our families, for everyone who's counting on us." Jessica watched Claire's expression change, the corners of her mouth twitching like she might soften. Then, without a word, Claire turned sharply on her heel and stalked out of the cafe, the door swinging shut behind her. The strain in the room lifted somewhat, but Jessica felt a pang of loss. "Did I do the right thing?" she asked, voice shaking slightly. Ethan reached across the table, giving her hand a squeeze. "You did what felt right, Jess. One step at a time." Eddie nodded in agreement, the tension still evident in his posture but relief washing over his features. "Thank you for standing up for me. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to let you down again. We can do this." As they began to make plans again, the warmth of their newfound collaboration began to take root. But deep down, Jessica knew Claire would come back, and the fight wasn't over. And as if on cue, Jessica's phone buzzed on the table. The name on the screen made her heart skip a beat. It was a notification from the local news. An emergency town hall meeting had been called, and the topics were darker than just factory closures. Her stomach twisted. What were they all about to face? With the looming uncertainty, she wondered if her attempt to bring Eddie back was the right call, or if it was all going to blow up in their faces. Desperate for answers, she braced herself. What would the town decide? Would everything they were building come crumbling down before it even had a chance to take shape? Jessica glanced at Ethan, the weight of her worries hanging in the air. His supportive smile felt like a lifeline, but the anxiety in her gut pulsed louder. "We need to head over there now," she said, her voice steadying with purpose. Ethan nodded, his expression turning serious. "You think it'll help?" "It has to," Jessica said. "We can't let fear dictate what happens next. Let us show them we're willing to fight." Eddie stood, his determination visibly building. "I'll come with you both. This is my mess too." The trio left the cafe, hurried footsteps crunching against the gravel parking lot. The crisp winter air filled with the chilling reality that time was running out for their town. Jessica could sense her heart beating a little faster, the urgency swelling in her chest. When they arrived at the town hall, the atmosphere was electric with a mix of anticipation and dread. People milled about nervously, conversations hushed as they eyed a growing group of townsfolk. Jessica's mind swirled with thoughts of what could unfold. Would Claire be there? What accusations would be thrown around? As they entered the building, the hum of voices quieted. Eyes turned towards them, curiosity and suspicion etched in many faces. Jessica could feel the judgment weighing heavily on her. But she pushed through, reminding herself of their purpose. After a few moments, a familiar voice broke through the silence. Jessica. Eddie. It was Claire, her body rigid as if caught in a storm. What are you doing here? We're here to help, Jessica said, feeling the tension snake between them again. We need to stand together. The factory isn't just a building, it's our community, our lives. Claire's eyes narrowed. Like you helped before? The bite in her tone was unmistakable, a reminder of the wounds that had yet to heal. Ethan stepped forward. Look, we can either argue amongst ourselves or focus on the common enemy. This factory is part of all our stories, Claire. We need to stop fighting each other. There was a flicker of vulnerability in Claire's expression, but she swallowed hard, regaining her fierce stance. You think you can just come back and pretend like everything's okay? Maybe I can't fix the past, Eddie said, his voice raw with emotion. But I'm here now. I want to make it right. The murmurs around them grew louder, some in support, others in doubt. Jessica took a deep breath, her heart racing. This isn't just about us. If we don't act, all of this might disappear. Our homes, our lives, everything we know. She swept her gaze over the crowd, hoping to ignite their passion. A man in the back broke the tension. But how do we trust him? After all he left behind? His voice boomed, echoing doubts that felt familiar. Trust isn't given, it's earned, Jessica replied, her heart hammering as she spoke. But can't we give him a chance? We can't afford to push anyone away right now. The crowd murmured, uncertainty floating through the air. It was a delicate balance. Jessica could almost see the lines of division formed by past grievances, all the years of hurt hanging heavy. She felt a desperate need to connect the pieces, but the clock was ticking. Claire eyed Eddie, searching for something: remorse, sincerity, hope. Jessica held her breath, praying for a breakthrough. As Eddie opened his mouth to speak, the town's mayor walked up to the front, raising a hand for silence. The air shifted, tension thickening once more. People of Maplewood, we need to address the elephant in the room. Jessica felt a chill creep up her spine. If the mayor was addressing them, it could only mean the stakes were about to be raised. What they feared most was finally coming to the surface. Tonight, we are facing a possible factory closure, not only due to financial woes but also accusations of corruption involved with the previous management. Jessica's stomach dropped. The crowd erupted in anxious murmurs. The battle they thought was against the factory was deeper, more sinister than they had imagined. She glanced at Eddie, whose face reflected her own shock. Claire's eyes widened, and for the first time, Jessica saw what could be fear uniting them all. How do we fight something we don't even understand? Claire whispered, her voice barely audible above the growing chaos. Jessica's thoughts raced, swirling with uncertainty. With the stakes now higher, would they gather their strength or let fear tear them apart once again? Would she have to question her own beliefs and strategies when everything was laid out in front of them? They were all on the precipice of something much larger than personal grudges. And before she could gather her thoughts, a loud crash echoed from the back of the hall, sending everyone into a wild panic. What now? She gasped, bracing herself for whatever awaited them next. The sudden crash froze the crowd. People turned, fear etched on their faces. A sense of chaos rippled through the room, as a few gasps echoed off the walls. Jessica's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her. What had happened now? Ethan instinctively moved closer to Jessica, his presence a comforting anchor in the turmoil. Stay close, he whispered, his voice steady even as the panic swelled around them. Jessica scanned the room, her gaze landing on the source of the noise. A rowdy group of individuals had pushed through the back door, shoving against one another as if trying to escape something unseen. What is going on? She called out, trying to make her voice heard over the frenzy. One of the newcomers, a tall man with disheveled hair and wide eyes, stepped forward. It's the factory. There are reports of protests at the gates. A ripple of anxiety surged through the crowd. Protests? Claire muttered, her brow furrowing. What do they want? Whatever they're claiming, it's out of control. We need to get someone out there before it escalates, the man replied, his breath coming in rapid bursts. Jessica's mind raced. The protests could threaten the factory's fate further. Without it, their town would suffer. She locked eyes with Eddie, who looked torn between anxiety and determination. We have to do something. We can't let this spiral. But how? Eddie clenched his fists, clearly grappling with the implications. What if we just make things worse? We can't stand by, Jessica insisted, her voice cutting through the din. If we unite, we can show them we're serious. We've faced worse. We're still here. Claire's expression softened slightly, regret flickering in her eyes. So, we confront them? Before Jessica could answer, the mayor shouted, "Enough. Everyone, hold your positions. We need to remain calm and address the situation." The authority in his voice cut through the chaos momentarily, but it was clear that the essence of fear still gripped many. "I'll go," Jessica said suddenly, steeling herself. "I'll meet them at the gate. They need to see that we're not backing down." "No, it's too dangerous." Ethan's face was a mixture of concern and worry. She shook her head. "This could be our chance to show we're fighting for something bigger than just rumors. We can't afford to appear weak. If we show them our numbers, our voices, they might listen." Eddie stepped forward, his resolve growing. "I'll go with you. If we're going, let us do it together." Claire hesitated, weighing her options before stepping alongside them. "Then I'll join too. If it means standing up for what's ours, we all go." With their minds made up, Jessica felt a rush of energy. They were more than individuals with past grievances, they were fighting for a collective future. The crowd began to murmur in hushed tones, clearly rallying behind the trio. As they pushed through the doors, the biting wind hit them, and Jessica's heart pounded in her chest. The sight of the factory looming in the distance was both intimidating and motivating. The sounds of protest were louder now, a cacophony of demands and anger that felt justified and alarming. With each step closer, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than a fight for a factory, it was a fight for hope, dignity, and their place in the world. And just as they neared the edge of the property, a shout rang out, a chilling voice shouting for the truth that no one seemed ready to address. Jessica stopped, frozen. What was that? She gasped, the urgency returning in waves. Ethan's face paled as he whispered back, What if they're hiding something worse than we thought?" Jessica looked at her friends, fear creeping in but determination fighting back. They had stepped into the unknown. But the truth awaited. Would they be ready for what they might uncover next? Jessica felt the breath catch in her throat. The reality of the situation began to settle in like a dense fog. The voice had pierced through her anxious thoughts, hinting at something far worse lurking beneath the surface. It was a cry for truth, but deeper down, Jessica sensed it was also a warning. Ethan scanned the crowd gathering around the factory gates, his brow furrowing. "We need to keep moving," he urged, grabbing Jessica's hand. "If we hesitate too long, we'll be stuck here with all this tension." His urgency jolted her into action. The trio continued forward, the wind cutting through them like daggers. She could feel Claire and Eddie close beside her, their solidarity a beacon of strength. The noise of the protest grew louder, a tidal wave of voices crashing against their resolve. They stepped into the chaotic scene unfolding at the factory gate. Signs waved like wild flags, words of anger and frustration plastered across them. "Lies!" shouted one voice, "We want the truth!" echoed another. Jessica's heart raced, the raw emotion in the air was palpable, electric. "Let us form a line," Jessica shouted over the noise, her voice strong. "We can stand together and be heard. Our presence might make a difference." Eddie nodded, his eyes fierce with determination. "We won't let them drown us out." They made their way to the forefront, joining others who had been standing their ground. Jessica took a deep breath and raised her own sign, one she had made in haste with a simple message: "We deserve transparency." Claire and Eddie mirrored her sentiment, their faces glowing with resolve. But just as they stood shoulder to shoulder, a familiar face emerged from the crowd: Derek, a former factory supervisor known for his hardline stances. He looked disheveled, his eyes darting around nervously. "You shouldn't be here," he yelled, his voice trembling. "They've got plans that could ruin us all." "What do you mean?" Jessica shot back, her heart pounding as she locked eyes with him. "What are they planning?" Derek gulped, his fear evident. "They've been hiding something. I stumbled upon documents that could change everything. The factory isn't just at risk for bad news, it's involved in deals that might endanger the entire town." His confession hung in the air, thickening the atmosphere. Jessica exchanged glances with her friends, adrenaline surging within her. This was it. The truth they sought was lurking in the shadows of the factory, shrouded in secrets that had been kept from them. Before she could process what this revelation meant, a loud crash echoed from behind the gates. It sounded like something or someone had fallen, and the crowd gasped collectively. Jessica's instincts kicked in, and she grabbed Ethan's arm tightly. "We need to see what's happening. If they're hiding something worse, then we need to get to the bottom of it," Ethan replied, his face set in resolve. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jessica nodded. They had come this far, and they couldn't back down now. As they pushed through the throng of bodies, adrenaline coursed through her veins. The unknown awaited them, and whatever truth lay on the other side could forever change their lives. But as they neared the gate, a chilling scream rang out, echoing through the crowd like thunder. Jessica's heart raced. What had they stumbled into? Would they be prepared for the terrifying truths that lay ahead? The crowd surged forward as chaos unfolded at the factory gates. Jessica's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat urging her on. She could see shadows moving inside, a struggle obscured by the rusting iron of the fence. With each step, the volume of angry cries thickened, a mix of fear and rage, rising like a monstrous wave. Ethan pulled her closer, their fingers intertwined. "Stay behind me," he instructed, determination etched on his face. Jessica felt a surge of gratitude for his protectiveness, even as fear clutched at her insides. Claire squeezed Jessica's shoulder, her eyes wide with a mixture of dread and excitement. "This isn't just a protest anymore," she breathed. "Something is really wrong." A group of protesters erupted in shouts as a figure stumbled out from behind the gates, tripping over themselves, breathless and shaking. Jessica's heart raced. It was Derek again, looking even more frantic. "You don't understand. They're hiding something dangerous," he shouted, his voice almost lost in the uproar. "What do you mean?" Jessica yelled back, part of her afraid for the answer. The wind whipped through the crowd, carrying bits of his confession. "Chemicals. There are containers leaking hazardous materials. I saw the documents they're bribing inspectors." Derek's eyes darted, the weight of his words sinking deep into the fabric of the moment. A murmur rippled through the throng. The notion of danger, real and palpable, transformed the screams of protest into gasps of horror. Jessica felt bile rise in her throat. If the factory was hiding something so toxic, it could unravel the very fabric of their community. Would they let greed consume it all? "Everyone needs to leave," an older man shouted from the back of the crowd, his face twisted with fear. "Get away from here now." Jessica's vision narrowed on the factory. It loomed like a dark sentinel, hiding everything under layers of deceit. She could sense the suffocating truth threatening to break free, and she had to know. We need to find those documents, Derek. Show us what you found. His gaze flickered between her and the gate, panic swirling in his eyes. It's dangerous. You don't know what they'll do if they think you're onto them. I don't care. Jessica fired back, her voice crackling with desperation. We need to protect our home, Derek, even if it's risky. In that moment, something shifted in Derek. Perhaps it was the swelling determination in the crowd, or the rising obligation to finally expose the facts. He nodded, uncertainty fading into a desperate resolve. Okay. Follow me. But keep your heads down. As they moved closer to the gate, the clamor of the crowd receded into a blur. There was an urgency in their steps, as if each footfall echoed their commitment to uncovering the truth. The air felt charged, anticipation and dread mixing heady in their lungs. Just then, an ominous clang sounded from the factory. A large, shadowy figure emerged, obscured by muffled roars and threats from the facility. Jessica's pulse raced. Whoever that was, they were crucial to uncovering whatever darkness lurked behind the metal walls. Watch out! Claire shouted, pulling Jessica back just as the figure lunged across the threshold. Breath hitched in Jessica's throat as they all froze, uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. What had they just stepped into? And what would they discover beyond the gates, where truths lay hidden in shadows? The answer was about to unfold, and Jessica couldn't shake the fear that the truth might be more terrifying than anything they had imagined. The figure stumbled forward, a towering silhouette against the backdrop of the factory's dim light. Jessica's heart raced, the chaos around her blending into a distant hum. Her instincts screamed at her to flee, but she was glued to the spot, eyes locked on the stranger. Stop right there! Ethan shouted, stepping protectively in front of her, fists clenched. The figure paused, and Jessica could finally make out the face of a man in his late 40s, smeared with grease, eyes wide with fervor. They're coming. You have to listen. His words spilled out in a rush, the urgency clear in every syllable. They're sabotaging us, hiding the truth inside. We can't let them get away with this. Claire squeezed Jessica's hand tighter. We need to know what he's talking about. Who are you? Jessica called out, trying to keep her voice steady, despite the tremor she felt in her knees. My name is Marcus. He exclaimed, glancing back over his shoulder, panic flickering in his gaze. I work inside the factory. I've seen the containers. They're not just leaking. They're no good for anyone. They're planning to dispose of them, once it's too late. Jessica's breath caught, the implications of his words crashing over her like a tidal wave. What do you mean? What is going to happen? An explosion. Marcus said, his voice breaking. They're cutting corners. Safety inspections? They're paying people off to stay quiet. Dread settled deep in Jessica's gut. She hadn't just stepped into danger, they were stepping into a disaster waiting to unfold. Look, Marcus urged, if you can get to the break room, I can show you the reports I stashed. But we need to hurry. I don't know how long I can stay out here before they find me. Derek's expression twisted with frustration. But how do we get in unnoticed? The guards will see us. Jessica could feel the crowd behind them, eyes filled with trepidation and despair. We can create a distraction. Ethan nodded, his face set in determination. I'll talk to a few people in the back. If we make enough noise, it might draw some attention away from the front. No. Claire interjected, panic etched on her face. It's too risky. We can't let anyone get hurt. Just then, a loud bang resonated from within the factory, echoing through the air. Jessica flinched, her heart slamming in her chest. The clang vibrated deep in her bones, something primal kicking in. This was bigger than them. This was about survival. Let us do it. Jessica said, the fire of resolve igniting within her. Derek, come with me. We'll find a way in through the side entrance. Claire, stay with Ethan. Keep watch over here. Marcus nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. Stay close to me. I'll lead you. They moved stealthily toward the side of the factory, the shadows their only ally. Jessica's heart thundering, she felt weightless and anchored all at once. This could change everything if they could just make it through the door. As they reached the entrance, she could hear the sound of footsteps behind them, heavy and menacing. Now! Marcus whispered, but just as they were about to slip inside, the door swung open violently. A guard stepped into view, his eyes narrowing. Hey! You! Panic surged. The moment of truth arrived, and Jessica realized they were caught in a game where the stakes were life or death. Would they make it through, or had they ventured too far into the darkness? What would they choose in a split second, knowing that the clock was ticking? In that heartbeat of uncertainty, Jessica's mind raced. She didn't have a plan, just a fiery determination to uncover the truth. Go! She shouted desperately, pushing Derek ahead of her, instinctively putting herself between him and the guard. Stop right there! The guard barked, his voice cold as steel. The tension in the air felt electric, throbbing with unspoken consequences. Before Jessica could think twice, she turned, grabbing Derek's hand and yanking him toward the door. Their hearts pounded in unison as they sprang into action, slipping through the narrow gap just as the guard lunged forward. Inside, they were met with a dimly lit break room strewn with abandoned coffee cups and half-eaten donuts. A few flickering fluorescent lights cast an eerie glow, illuminating the old conference table piled high with papers. Jessica could feel the urgency coursing through her veins. This way. Marcus guided them, his voice low and frantic as they ducked behind a stack of boxes that had seen better days. The files should be in that cabinet over there. As they crouched, Jessica couldn't help but peek out. She could hear the muffled sounds from the other side of the wall, the protests echoing like a distant thunderstorm, rising and falling like tides. They had to hurry. With shaking hands, Marcus opened the cabinet door, the rusty hinges squeaking. Here. I found them. He pulled out manila folders thick with paper, the weight of hidden truths filling the air. Suddenly, the door burst open again. Jessica's heart sank. It was the guard, storming into the break room. Where the hell are you? He thundered. The chaos outside had no idea what was happening beneath their feet. Hide! Jessica hissed, shoving Derek behind a nearby desk just as the guard crossed the threshold. She pressed her back against the wall, breath shallow, praying he wouldn't notice them. Searching for strays, the guard announced, voice booming. You think you can just wander in and have a little look-see? Not today. The weight of those words filled the tension in the air, making it unbearable. As the guard rifled through the faded office drawers, Jessica felt the walls closing in. We need to go. Now, she whispered to Marcus and Derek. Their gazes met, a silent agreement forming. As the guard focused on a cabinet directly across from them, Jessica gave the slightest nod. They made their move quick and silent. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, they darted toward the back door, the tension pushing them forward. But just as they were about to reach the exit, a hand shot out from nowhere, grabbing Jessica's arm like a vice. Going somewhere? The guard sneered. Jessica's breath caught. Panic surged. But then, with sheer force of will, she pulled free from his grip, using all her strength to twist away. Run! She yelled. Derek needed no encouragement. They stumbled into the narrow hallway, barely managing to contain their fear. They dashed through the maze of corridors, dodging doors and corners, every echo amplifying their desperate heartbeat. Where now? Derek squeaked, panic rising in his voice. Find an exit. Marcus urged, trying to lead the way. There has to be a way out of this madness. As they turned a corner, they could see the flicker of light ahead, the main exit. Jessica pushed through a door marked emergency exit as adrenaline surged. Fresh air hit them like a wave. They spilled out into the night, a flurry of white snow swirling around them, quelling the chaotic thoughts that crowded her mind. "We did it!" she gasped, one more glance towards the factory's grim silhouette. "We need to get these documents to the mayor," Marcus shouted, holding them tight against his chest. "This is our only chance to save the town. Let us go. Now." Jessica rallied her friends, feeling a newfound strength coursing through her. Somehow, against all odds, they had found the truth in the heart of the darkness. As they made their way back toward the town hall, a new sense of determination surged within her. It didn't matter how daunting the future looked, they were united, a group ready to battle for what they believed in. When they arrived at the town hall, Jessica slammed the doors open, breathless but resolute. "We have something to show you," she called out, eyes scanning for familiar faces in the sea of townsfolk gathered inside. The mayor looked up, expression shifting as he noticed the urgency in her eyes. "Jessica? What happened?" "Here," Marcus panted, pushing the papers toward him through a haze of disbelief. "It's all in here. We have to expose what's happening at the factory before it's too late." Gasps filled the room as everyone crowded around the desk, piecing together a legacy of lies that had long affected their tight-knit community. It was time to fight, time to stand together. Against the odds, Jessica finally felt the weight of hope crack the surface. "We can do this. Together." Amidst the raucous murmurs of realization and whispered plans, Jessica felt the thrill of possibility tugging at her. They were a community, a family bound by resilience. As her heart swelled with hope, Jessica glimpsed Ethan at the back of the room, a proud smile stretching across his face. They had faced darkness together, and now, they would stand to shine brighter than ever. In that moment, they chose to stand united, ready to embrace the truth and ignite change. They were no longer a town waiting for miracles, they were a town determined to create their own spark. And that was the most powerful magic of all. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this emotionally charged ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this inspiring transformation.